you throw them back into the space. And whenever someone gives you that energy, you rebuke it. It's okay if you haven't watched it. Honestly, all hell breaks loose. And every time she's talking to someone, like her husband, her other friends, blah, 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 she's like, what do I always say? And the other person's like, you hate lies and you hate betrayal. It is not congruent with someone who wants to be around elegant women. To take away the femininity from these women for expressing anger. She's always been in competition with her daughter. It is the emotion of self-protection. This is why all you hear about is the fact that women's nervous system is a complete mess. Imagine how hot the air that's going through that tiny hole is. That is why passive aggressiveness, when you're on the receiving end of it, whew. Hell hath no fury, but a woman scorned. Iconic line. We all know that line. We all agree with that line. There's something very counterintuitive with that line. Hell hath no fury? Really? If you were to tell me to picture hell's fury and personify it, I would see a male figure, right? Yet, this iconic phrase is known and repeated and quoted by everyone, and nobody refutes it. And I think it's because we fear what we do not understand well. Something about female rage truly sends a shiver down your spine because it is a taboo, because it is often shamed in society, because it is repressed. Then everything that is repressed comes out in more insidious and subversive forms. So to explore all of that, I'm going to use the case study of the Real Housewives of London. There's a couple of things that I want us to understand throughout this whole video. How in many social circles, female anger is seen as the ultimate sin. The consequences of that on people who have unbridled anger, like our main character today that we're going to see, but also the devastating consequences that it has on people who repress that anger. So the taboo of female anger, we're going to do a little psychoanalysis of one scene, one episode, because I've only watched the first few episodes. I'm going to be honest, I don't really want to watch that many more. I kind of stopped at the 4th episode. I was like, I've seen enough. In my opinion, good reality TV, it needs to have drama, obviously. That's what comes to mind when we first think of it. But it also needs to have emotional, wholesome moments. And lastly, a third and underrated aspect of reality TV, it has to be funny. There needs to be comedic relief. There was none of that. But the first 2 episodes and the first drama really made for an excellent case of the complexity of the taboo that is female anger. So let's get to it. It's okay if you haven't watched it. Honestly, I'm just going to walk you through the main plot points. So this is our main character, Panthea. She is a woman who is married to a rich British man. She has fled her country of origin, Iran, during the revolution in the late 1970s. So that's already a huge trauma, as you can imagine. She was raised by her single mom, and we're going to see that is a whole mess in itself and the reason why she is the way she is. So here we have 2 women who are friends. We're going to see these are all the housewives. They're all friends from the upper echelon of British society, okay, in London at least. Panthea and Juliet are friends. They have a friend in common who's a dentist. Panthea, as one does, contacts her friend and says, oh, you're a dentist and you're my friend. Let me send you my child. I just wanted you to do like a teeth cleaning for my child or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but it was a small procedure that she was asking for, okay? She sends her son there. Her son comes back. I can't remember whether it was fillings or extractions, but he comes back with way more, and he comes back with permanent modifications done to his teeth, okay? Panthea goes crazy. She calls the dentist. She's like, why does my son have so many fillings? It was several. And the dentist says, oh, well, I just felt like he needed them, blah, 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 blah. She goes crazy because why didn't you ask, before changing permanently my son's teeth, why didn't you call me? Also, where's the x-ray? Prove to me, show me the x-ray that you did before that showed you that he needed all those fillings or extractions or whatever. Conveniently, the friend didn't have the x-ray. She forgot to take it or whatever. Honestly, based on the facts alone, Panthea is 100% right to be upset. Any dentist, honestly, would not have done his job or her job by doing this, but especially your friend. How dare you do that to my child? Like, I would have also been upset. But the thing is, Panthea, I cannot, by the way, huge disclaimer for this. I am not on anyone's side. I'm not saying that there's a good person here in all of these characters, a bad person. To me, they are all a little bit unlikable from what I've seen. I don't know them in real life. But I'm not defending and saying that it's black or white. I think they all have their issues. This channel is called the Good Bad Human channel for a reason. Nothing is black or white, okay? But we're gonna see that for Miss Panthea, everything is black or white. I don't want to diagnose anyone, but she exhibits a lot of traits of someone being on the BPD spectrum. She's very intense. She's always talking very loudly, and she has a very erratic cadence. And she loves very loudly, but the moment she perceives anyone being fake or a little bit hypocritical or betraying her, all hell breaks loose, okay? So she goes off on this dentist. She screams to her. She goes online and completely tarnishes her name and her reputation as she can. She tries to, at least, etc., etc. This is where Juliet enters the picture. Juliet here is, I believe, of Australian origin. Like, she's originally from Australia, but she's been in the UK for very long, and she also married very rich. And also, I think her husband is from a family, an important British family. But anyway, she's very vanilla. She's not, if she's chocolate, she's vanilla, okay? If she's spice, she's ice. She's very British. She has, you can see that she adapted a lot more to the British culture in terms of, oh, you have to be very polite. It's all about pleasantries and just the overall harmony of the setting. She is very conflict avoidant, and here is where the perceived betrayal happens for Panthea. Because they are both friends with this dentist, Panthea was sure, like, she called Juliet crashing out during her crash out and saying, like, look at what she did to my son, blah, 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 like screaming. Apparently, Juliet did not really want to hear her out, did not offer any support, and she kind of ghosted her. Panthea explains in the beginning that she has tried to contact Juliet, and also, like, when they would see each other at gatherings, because they're in the same social circle, she would go to see Juliet and be like, can I talk to you about this dentist thing? And Juliet would always be like, no, like, no, not here. It's not proper here. Like, this is a nice dinner. This is a wedding, whatever. Anyway, she's been avoiding the heck out of Panthea. And ever since then, to Panthea, who again, I believe is on the BPD spectrum, she felt it as the ultimate betrayal. She says it many times in every single episode. She's like, I'm huge on loyalty. I hate lies. I hate fake people. And every time she's talking to someone, like her husband, her other friends, blah, 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 she's like, what do I always say? And the other person's like, you hate lies and you hate betrayal. It is what it is. But she will not stop talking about this drama and chewing people's ear off any chance she gets. Like, she is a walking ball of rage. Second half of the episode, you kind of get to know about the other housewives. They all live very beautiful, lavish lifestyles. Amanda here is kind of the unspoken leader of the group. And I think people take that a little bit too literally. It doesn't mean that she bosses them around. It's more of a rapport de force, meaning her opinions are the ones usually that the others will agree with. If you know about female groups and their dynamics, you know exactly what I mean. And so this woman, Amanda, who has this huge skincare company, apparently got divorced a couple of times, and the last time it was the most lucrative divorce settlement of the UK. So she organizes this enormous party in the first episode in honor of Women's Day, I think it's International Women's Day. Everybody's there. Everybody arrives except for Panthea, who arrives late. She says hello to Juliet. And Juliet, she says hi to Panthea. She's like, wow, you look gorgeous, Panthea. Very beautiful, blah, blah, blah. Panthea immediately, she looks at her. She's like, yeah, you're beautiful too, but no need to be fake. Immediately, all the women, and this is what we're going to talk about, shock. Like they've never seen this in their lives. She committed a very big social crime, a very big social faux pas. They all look like they're deers in headlights. Like this is not in the instruction manual that they have learned and downloaded in their brains. Everybody's panicking, okay? Because until then you could see the party, the way it was going was like, oh, hello, darling. How have you been? Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Oh, yes, my son. You know how it goes. And so she goes off and she creates immediately the scene. They both sit down. A bunch of the other girls sit down at the table and it's just Panthea screaming at her. To be honest, what I found a little bit yucky from Panthea, first of all, yeah, the way you did it, like you arrive at this party and immediately you scream and you make it everybody else's problem instead of taking her to the side, whatever. Second of all, she starts really berating Juliet and saying stuff that has nothing to do with the dentist gate and the betrayal for the most part, which really hurts her cause because the other girls were like, okay. Like she says stuff like, oh, I know that you borrow your clothes, blah, 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 blah. Like kind of like mean girl shit, honestly. And the reason she does that, you understand, she's like a child. She has a lot of like these, she is on the BPD spectrum. And what is she's doing? People with BPD, when one of their favorite people betrays them, or at least that's what they perceive, they do something that is called splitting. So it's like, oh, you were black and white thinking, you know, like you were an angel to me in my perception, and now you're the devil. And now I am so hurt. My wrath, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, okay? I will insult you. I will do everything to berate you with everything that I've got. I will tarnish your name every chance I get. Very BPD coded, okay? I've seen it up close. It's not a pretty sight. It's not a pretty sight. Anyway, this happens after the fight. Panthea leaves. So she came to the party. She created chaos and she left. A couple of days later, this is why I put these three together. These three and Karen here, they gather for a sort of like yoga qigong class. They do the class, and at the end, they just sit down in a little circle. And here, Amanda, who's kind of the leader of the group, she starts the conversation. And this is what I mean in female groups, if you're not too familiar with them, but there's often like someone who sets the tone. So she arrives and she says, oh, so that party, what happened at the party, that was a lot. At my party, that was a lot, right? Honestly, I feel like it was of really bad taste. Honestly, I think that Panthea's behavior, it is really incompatible with, it is not congruent with someone who wants to be around elegant women. What she's doing here is that she's initiating something that happens in female groups. Unless you've been homeschooled, you've probably seen it at school at least once, which is the female social exclusion tactic. It's done in a very pernicious way, but it's deadly, okay? The others, these two, are about to agree with her and follow her when this queen who's with them comes out and stops whatever's happening. She's not following the leader of the group. And she's like, no. And by the way, when she said what she said, the other three just shut up. It was the end of the conversation. She's like, no, I'm not going to condemn her right away and decide that I don't like her right away. Everybody just expresses anger and hurt differently. But it doesn't change the fact of the fight, which is, oh, this dentist friend that we had fucked up my son's teeth and you completely ghosted me after that. And I think, obviously, the fact that she's Black, it is not a coincidence. The fact that she's Black and she's the one coming to Panthea's, another woman of color's, defense, because she knows what it's like to be called this angry, to be shamed for her anger and her loudness, etc., etc. Like Black women often have this very negative stereotype when they get angry. And we're going to see this later on in our commentary, but it is so misogynistic. And the women from these circles, it is very dehumanizing when they think that they have the right to take away the femininity from these women for expressing anger, for calling them womanly. Like that's a very violent act. Kind of like when men are shamed for being sad. It's like, oh, you're being a pussy. I hate that. But you're just not a real man. It is a violent act because if you are actually and fully identify as a man or a woman, that can really mess you up when everybody around you suddenly says that you're not just because of a basic human emotion. Now, we're going to see the most important piece of the puzzle which is Panthea's mom. Like seeing her relationship with her mom, it was kind of triggering because I've been around women like that growing up, and I understand the pain that she went through. Not exactly the same, but certain things that we're going to see, once you're going to see it, you're going to be like, oh, this completely makes sense. Like this was her villain origin story. So Panthea's mom, since the start, when she's introduced, Panthea herself says, yes, she's a scary woman, blah, 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 blah. You're first introduced to her as she comes to Panthea's home for lunch. And immediately, this is the trigger moment because I have had to live that so many times. Her mom arrives, doesn't even say hello, anything. The first thing she looks at her daughter up and down and immediately starts criticizing her looks-wise. Like, oh, why are you putting a lash? Everything fake, like, this looks like so vulgar, whatever. You look like a fake, like plastic doll, whatever. The things that does to you, if that's you, what you need to do, you need to do the work to understand years later that all those voices that are critical in your head now regarding every aspect of your looks now, they are not yours. You take them out, you throw them back into the space. And whenever someone gives you that energy, you rebuke it. You rebuke it. You don't do this physically, obviously, because unlike Panthea, you're trying to still have a filter on. But in your head, whenever I get that energy now, I'm like, rebuke, rebuke, rebuke. I do not accept that energy. And in my head, I imagine that someone's sending it to me and it just like goes back to them like that. And so I just look at them. I'm like, absolutely. It works. It works really well. Anyway, her mom, she grew up with her single mom, refugee in London. But her mom is very narcissistic. Like she's always been in competition with her daughter. I don't wish that on anyone. A lot of neglect, lack of love, support, trust. Okay. When I say neglect, she did not care or look at her daughter. Like, you know how we all need to be seen? She did not see her daughter at all. It was all about her. She explains also in that same scene that from the ages of 7, 8, 9, she can't remember exactly, her mom asked her to stop calling her mom, and she had to call her by her first name because she did not want people to know that she was her mom. Can you imagine how hurtful that is? I can't. Like, I really feel for her. That's such a negation of your existence. Also, you are told, we are so wired to love our mom and to expect the famous motherly love that is so undeniable, that people say is the one love that nobody can deny and that is stronger than everything else. Girl, that is very violent, especially because she doesn't have a dad, and we're going to see that in a second. But because of all that, this explains, like, when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is why she keeps saying that her biggest triggers are liars and fakers. That's her mom. All of her deep suffering, she had to grow up with this mother whose love she was so desperate for, but who would just not see her and not love her, just asking her to lie all the time and being so fake about like her age, about her being her mom, etc. She has like the deepest betrayal wounds ever. Huge mother wounds. So Panthea is aware of her mother issues, but she's still close with her. And this is something that we're going to see very soon. She will not let go. And that if she doesn't learn how to, that's going to be her downfall. It already is, given what I saw in this story. And she just keeps fighting with everyone. Panthea puts a lot of blame on her dad and her ex-husband. Her dad, they fled as a family to London when there was the Iranian Revolution. But then when the revolution was done, the father's family was like, can you come back? And the dad just left them in London and went back to Iran. So huge abandonment wound, again, huge trigger for people, something that causes BPD in many people. So huge father abandonment wound. And also then she got married super young. And the ex-husband the whole time was a huge liar, cheater. He had 4 mistresses, he had other children, etc., etc. Like the biggest mess. So that again shows you why she goes crazy over lies and hypocrisy. Like her whole life she suffered because of people not loving her enough. And all these people were also people who lied and were very deceitful. She puts a lot of her issues on the fact she explains that, oh, I am the way I am because of my dad and my ex-husband, blah, blah, blah. Yes, absolutely. These trash men are to blame for how she is in part, and her abandonment issues, her fear of deceitfulness, etc., etc. But the way she is still, I noticed that when she talks, the few times where she talked about her dad and her ex-husband were the few times where she was calmer, and she's never calm, which shows that she grieved those wounds and she kind of resolved them in her head. It's in her black and white BPD type of thinking, it works. It's like, oh, those people are black. I'll put the blame on them. There's no ambiguity or complexity here. But when you see the intensity of the triggers and how erratic she is the other times, and every time she's in the presence of a woman, she is very... You could just see this nervous energy flow through her. And this is why she's always so chaotic. And she ends up being in a quasi-argument, if not a full-blown argument, with every woman that she talks to, either in a group or one-on-one. There's not a single time where it doesn't happen. And this shows that it has nothing to do with the father and ex-husband wound. And there's a huge missing piece of the puzzle, which are her mother issues. And we're going to see this very soon. But we do tend to often put the blame on the wounds that are resolvable, where we don't have also hatred and love mixed. Now let's go to the commentary, where we're going to look at anger as an emotion, anger when it is repressed, and finally anger where, like in Panthea's case, it is unbridled. So repression, uncontrollable, 2 ends of the spectrum, yin and yang, like we saw. So first of all, anger is an essential human emotion. If you watch the movie Inside Out, it's one of the 5 basic ones. It's like joy, anger, sadness, I guess shock, but anger is the top 3. You think, oh, angry, sad, happy, right? I read recently a book on shame called Healing the Shame That Binds You. And it's kind of like an encyclopedia on shame. And a huge chapter is dedicated to anger and how in women especially, anger is repressed, which is a huge problem because anger, while it is demonized, especially in women, it is so taboo. It is an essential human emotion because it is the emotion of self-protection. And the problem is, if you repress this thing that will come up every time someone crosses your boundary, every time someone is attacking you or a loved one, every time someone disrespects you, then it's going to come out in very, very ugly ways. It comes out in the form of people pleasing. And this, as someone who used to have deep shame and repression with anger, regarding anger, it would be crazy. Like I would go, for example, for a haircut. And if they did a really bad job, I would be overly nice with them and I would tip them extra. Later on, I would go home and hate myself. So weird how the psychology of repression. So yeah, people pleasing and fawning. There's fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Fawn is the people pleasing. It's like you submit. 2, a lot of passive aggressiveness. And I think we can agree, although I have seen many men be passive aggressive. But when you think of passive aggressiveness, you do think of women first, right? And this has to do with the fact that it is shamed a lot. A lot of times it has been framed as, oh, people who are passive aggressive, they're just bad people and they're meaner people than average. I've been passive aggressive at times. I've received a lot of passive aggressiveness. On the moment, you're like, oh yes, this is the energy of evil. Actually, once you understand it, you're like, no, this is just repressed anger that needs to come out. Because anger, it's a very big and explosive emotion, right? It's like, but if you repress it, the energy that is felt inside is still the same, but it has to come out. There's no other way. And so it only has like a little tiny, it's this big, but it only has a little tiny hole like that to come out. So imagine how hot, if we're thinking of anger as fire, imagine how hot the air that's going through that tiny hole is. That is why passive aggressiveness, when you're on the receiving end of it, whew, hell have no fury like a woman scorned. That's when you're thinking of that quote, okay? I still have men around me who, yeah, they tell me like, so when my girlfriend or whatever, or my sister, like when she's angry, it's a quiet type of anger, but it sends chill down my spine. I'm terrified. And these are grown men. So it just goes to show. The two last ones, projection, rejection, avoidance. And this is exactly what we have seen here. When you have repressed, like these women coming from their social circle, growing up of anger, being shamed for them, they have learned to never express anger in a healthy manner and in a fully open manner. And so when they see Panthea here expressing it and being so explosive and loud and angry, ooh, the projection they feel is at such a core level because it's years and years and years. Like these women are middle-aged, at least. It's years of angry repression that they see personified here, and all that shame. And I used to be like that. Like I repressed my anger because I had people growing up who were kind of like Panthea. And I was so traumatized by like huge anger that when I would see a woman act like that, I would feel hatred towards her. And I'm glad that I came across this series now that I did all the healing work. We're all mirrors to each other. So I would have seen my anger through her, and all that shame that I carried around it would have driven me crazy. And I could not have seen more than 10 minutes of Panthea getting angry because of it. And that is why rejection and avoidance. So conflict avoidance and also rejection. These women are trying to push Panthea out. Lastly, but not least, addiction. When I was in the throes of my anger, shame, and repression, I started therapy, and I was very in touch with my sadness because women, and it's the complete opposite with men, right? But women are allowed to feel sad. Like it's even romanticized. And so we were in therapy, and like after a couple of months of therapy, when she really started getting to know me, she was like, okay, but do you ever get angry? I was like, no, I don't get angry. Like my reaction was crazy. I was like, I don't know. I just don't get angry. That's not me. She was like, really? She was like, first of all, like with everything that happened to you growing up, like surprising. Second of all, why do you think your binge eating is like as crazy as ever and you're binge drinking? Which, by the way, both of which haven't binged in so long. No, guys, I'm so proud. I'm so happy. This shows that it works. There's going to be lots of blood, sweat, and tears, guys. And there's going to be a lot of like relapses and like whatever. But when you're on the other side, it's even sweeter. When the darker the place you come from, the sweeter the honey is when you get to the other side and you come to the honey pot. Okay, terrible analogy. Sorry. I genuinely thought that I had no anger, because what would happen with the addiction, let me tell you, sadness, I would feel all the sadness. And that's what she was telling me. She was like, why do you think you still have all these like behavioral issues, even though you're so in touch with your sadness? And I had to understand that there was this vicious circle of like, oh, anytime I would feel anger, the anger didn't even have time. Like I didn't even have time to be like, oh, I'm angry, that I immediately felt shame. The moment someone would disrespect me or something, or I felt disrespected, something in my body, the shame in my body that was so ingrained would hijack, and it would be like, shame. And I would feel this deep sense of shame, which then toxic shame is the most unbearable feeling. And so then I would binge eat or binge drink, okay? And this whole time, I was just angry. I just had to feel my anger. I just had to feel anger for 100 different situations that had happened in my life. And yeah, it was not pleasant to do, let me tell you. But given how I feel now, I would do it 100 times again, okay? And this is why the fact that anger is so taboo and shamed in society, this is why all you hear about is the fact that women's nervous system is a complete mess. I'm still healing from over 25 years of this mess. Like I have PMDD, I have PMOS, PCOS. This is what happens when you repress your feelings, okay? And here, I wanted to include this image also from Inside Out. So this is with a quote saying, angry is just sad's bodyguard, okay? It is the energy of self-preservation. It is not bad. Like you being angry, you're not a bad person. You're not mean because you're angry. You're just having an emotion. Second of all, I think I really wanted to, when I saw this image, this is exactly what the problem is, guys. See how they chose sadness to be a woman and anger to be a man? Nobody questioned that. I didn't question that until I decided to make a video about it. And this is the problem. I think that if sadness had been a man and anger had been a woman, a lot of people would have felt very uncomfortable with that. It's like, oh, why did you make him like so weak, blah, blah, blah. And the women would have been like, oh, so anger is a woman, so we're hysterical, blah, 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 blah. So many layers. Yeah, because like the taboo of female anger, the problem is that it's at a personal level, it's on your family level, but it's also at a societal level. And this is why there's sometimes cultural classes, because these women come from different upbringings, different cultures, where, for example, I guess in Jamaica and Iran, being louder is not seen as unfeminine, but in these social circles, the wider circles, it is. Asian also. And so when they end up together for social economical reasons, which, by the way, people talk a lot about gender, about race, the biggest determinant of the people you're going to hang out with is your economic situation. That's just how it is today. Like, we are in the most capitalistic society ever. And so there are these clashes now. And about female anger, when it is repressed, there's so much that goes, like, this could be a video essay in itself. But for now, I want to talk about why these women, when the fight broke, especially these women who are not part of the fight, why they immediately took her side, even though objectively, like we saw, based on the facts, she was 100% in the right. But they did not even care. Like, they did not even talk about the facts once, I believe. Demure. These women were taught that any sense of worth that they deserve to feel is contingent upon the fact that they can be deemed demure, quiet, modest, reserved. This is what they have to act like at all times. Showing anger and taking up space, being loud, being big, it is seen as the greatest sin for these women and many women. And I fear more and more women, because it is something that is very marketable online. It is something that can make many women spend money, because being demure at all times, you are encouraged to practice emotional suppression, which is very unhealthy, which will make you insecure and create a lot of health issues, which then will make you spend money. It is that deep. Equally deep, this is why a lot of women, to no one's surprise, all of these women, it's the case for them, have Botox. They take Ozempic, emotional suppression. You need to, and speak in a very like euphemistic, pleasant way all the time. You need to be quiet. You cannot take space. You have to have kind of this prepubescent look to you. in terms of your body type, which is why often it makes you look older, despite all the work that you get. The Botox, you see these women trying to emote, it's scary. It's like she's furious and she's like, it was a very hard time. It's sad. It's truly sad. And so you can imagine for women who go through that type of emotional suppression and all the suffering that comes from it, how triggered they are by someone who is on the other end of the spectrum, okay? Yeah, it's their shadow. It's their biggest shadow, basically. They're each other's biggest shadows. Panthea, now we're going to look at what happens with female anger when it is in its most taboo form, at least in the eyes of society, and when it is completely unbridled. And we're going to look at it through the lens of Panthea, Sharon Stone, and Jeanette McCurdy, both of whom have shared a lot about their mother issues. If Panthea wants to keep hanging out with these women and have a chance to actually like feel happy, because you can see also like she's very attached to her social status. She's very attached. Like she brags about the fact that like she never washes her hair. Every week she gets like her hair professionally done and she washes it at a salon. None of her clothes are borrowed, blah, 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 blah. She's met the royal family, whatever. So yes, there is a strong desire from her to be a part of this social circle. But the fact that she says that she has zero tolerance for phoniness, that is going to be her downfall. It has to be one or the other. Either she works on her anger issues, which in fact are her mother issues, or if she doesn't do that, fate is going to choose for her. Like she's going to burn off all the connections and the network that she has, because especially in upper echelons of society and especially in Britain, like the fact that she's upper class plus in the UK, those social circles, it's all about understatement. She's the living representation of a hyperbole, but that culture really favors and celebrates euphemism. Like you have to be calm. They're very conflict avoidant, and the priority is just to keep a good vibe. A pleasant vibe. It's all about politeness. And the thing is, I don't think one or the other is wrong. First of all, there's a cultural difference here that plays at play. And second of all, sometimes it's good. She sees everything as being fake. But for example, as I was saying earlier, every thought that comes in her head, she says it. Like she'll meet with a group of friends and she'll be like, oh, your hair looks weird today. Oh, that's a huge pimple on your face. Oh, didn't you wear that thing? Blah, blah, blah. She never stops because she perceives anything else other than that as phoniness. And that, I think, is another proof that she's on the BPD spectrum. Like it's so black and white for her. And this is a problem also with terminology and words. Like what one person calls polite, the other person calls fake. Even at one point, she was talking about the fight with her mom, her toxic mom, and she was saying, her mom was like, you have to be more diplomatic. And immediately Panthea says, so you want me to be fake? It's deep. Like it's deep in her. She really needs to work on it. Now, as we have seen, I think the reason why she's so reactive still, even at her age, and even though you can clearly see that she has worked through and grieved the abandonment and the betrayal from her ex-husband and her dad, it all has to do with her mother issues. Because as someone who has very intense black and white thinking, her mother is the one person in her life that she cannot categorize as black or white. And with her perception of the world, that drives her crazy. For that, I want to talk about two people. First of all, Jeanette McCurdy. Recently, I read her memoir, fantastic memoir called I'm Glad My Mom Died. The thing is, when I first read the title, I was like, oh, this is going to be either a story about how she hated her mom the whole time, or she didn't hate her mom the whole time, but by the end, it was getting really bad to a point where when her mom died, she felt huge relief, okay? Not at all. Not at all. And this is why I wanted to include her in this video. You learn her mom dies towards the middle of the book, or at least like the 2/3, but there was a lot of story left. So I was quite surprised myself. And you realize that when her mom died, Jeanette McCurdy was devastated. She was like, what am I going to do without her? And for years after that, she dealt with eating disorders, alcoholism, terrible abusive relationships, etc. And it's only years later when she went to therapy, and the first time that that the therapist even dared to mention, oh, but your mom, like the way you're talking about her, like there's certain things that were abusive. She went crazy and she ghosted that therapist for a long time and went back to drinking and eating disorders. Okay. And it took her many, many years to resolve that. And it was the source of all the chaos in her life. Second of all, this is Sharon Stone talking about the very complicated relationship she had with her mom, which she says never really liked her or acted as such.
My mom behaved often as if she didn't like me at all. She had a very, very awful childhood. When my mom died, she was at my house and I was taking care of her, but she was terrified to die because she was afraid her parents would be there. So I had to lie to her and tell her that her father was in jail and her mother was in a mental hospital and they weren't going to be there. And the night that she was dying, she was really fighting it. And my mom was holding on and holding on. And I finally realized I have to let go. I need to detach and release. And she's only going to die if I let go.
Okay, listen well.
Which was hard. Because I wanted those things, Anderson. I wanted her to say, I'm proud of you. I love you. I'm sorry. You're important to me. And I wasn't going to get them. And
that's enough. This is exactly the issue. Panthea's issue, okay? She's looking for a resolution. She's hanging on. She has very black and white thinking. Her mom has showed her that per Panthea's perception of what is black and white, her mom has showed her thousands of times that her mom should be in the black category. But she keeps seeing her every week. She keeps being close to her, eating with her, going to the salon with her. Panthea, just like Sharon Stone explains that from the start, she felt that her mom didn't like her. And all those years, she was suffering and still keeping contact with her mom and hoping that she would one day say, sorry, I see you, I love you. To the point where on her deathbed, she was still hoping for those things. It's the same thing with Panthea. When you see the way she interacts with other women, that is a child. She even says so. See what I was talking about, the self-awareness that Panthea has sometimes? When she was fighting with Juliet, she was like, oh my God, when I see her, I turn into this child, uncontrollable child. It's like, yes, that's your mother wound reflected to you. That is you still keeping your mom in your life and still desperately every time you're with other women and these women exhibit anything that hurt you with your mom, you're going to see red. You're going to split. She's an adult, but she is controlled by that inner child that is saying, see me, love me, find me important enough to not betray me. And so she sees everything all these other women are doing as a personal attack. She's reliving that terrible, awful wound over and over and over. And the thing is, if she wants to stay in these social circles because she loves the social status and the money and everything, she's going to have to work through her mother issues. If she does that, once she does that, she will see, and I've experienced that with other things, but like once you work through your issues that are the most hidden and complex and not so black and white, you're then going to go back in the world and you're going to realize, damn, like I'm in these situations where people are sometimes doing things that would have made me go crazy before. And now I'm just like, whatever. Crazy how that works. And that's the only way she can have a chance at happiness while staying in those social circles that she's in, where everybody is going to be very polite and non-confrontational and not say everything that goes on their mind. There is a way to healthily express your anger as a woman. And I was thinking of recent healthy examples that are very mainstream so that maybe you could know about them. I was thinking, for example, Meg Thee Stallion, who recently went through a very public breakup and openly said, oh, so this man that I was dating and so in love with, turns out he was cheating on me the whole time, whatever. I think she expressed her anger in a very healthy way. First of all, she did not repress it. The way she publicly said, oh, I was playing house, I was cooking for him, I was doing this and that. A lot of women would not have, and I've known women that like that and my friends and stuff, would not have publicly admitted that because they're like, oh, I'm that dumb girl, or the word that's trending these days is bird. See, even the fact that on TikTok, I'm seeing sometimes people talk about female celebrities that are in toxic relationships and calling them bird as in, oh, bird brain, you're stupid. You're not going to achieve anything if you think you're helping these women, which I don't think you are, by shaming them. And because of that, these women will not be able to heal because they will keep the abuse inside because they're ashamed. Megan Thee Stallion was like, no, I'm not a dumb idiot. Like, this man made me believe that this was true love. And so I was acting like a housewife. I was cooking for him, for his parents on Thanksgiving, blah, blah, blah. Second thing that I thought was very healthy, and this is connected to the second example that I have, she did a song. She did a diss track. I think it's like, all that wifey shit is dead. Put that shit to bed. Then it gets explicit. It's Meg Thee Stallion. But that is so healthy. You can feel that she's angry in the song, but she's not abusing anyone. She's not hurting anyone. She's creating, expressing it, getting it out, and creating. Removing any shame that you have tied to any of your emotions. You should not have shame tied to your emotions. Emotions are something that are as essential as breathing, as essential as, well, I was going to say your period, but somehow we ended up shaming women for that, even though it's like literally one of the most basic mechanisms in the female body. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it. In many ways, it was also healing for me. And this is why what I'm saying about being creative and expressing things, I truly encourage every person. It doesn't have to be your job. Like it could be journaling. It could be you talking in front of a camera or not. It could be dance. Like, just be creative and intentionally express and let your emotions out. It doesn't have to be through therapy if you can't afford it. You're very lucky if you have people in your life that you can vent to. But it needs to come out and you need to remove the shame. Okay? All right. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you very soon in about a week. And until then, I hope you have a wonderful time where you enjoy the present and feel all the emotions with no judgment. Bye.